Okay, so this is a video game review for Diablo 2 for the PC. This game was released in 2000 and is an action RPG game where you take control of a hero character and fight hordes of creatures through 3 levels before descending into hell to defeat Diablo, the Lord of Terror. To begin with, while I did play the original game, I didn't play it enough to remember important details, so I won't directly compare it with the sequel here. Secondly, this is a game that really shouldn't work, but just does, and it's also one of those games that 10 minutes probably can't sum up really neatly into a package without missing the many wee touches in the game that work to make this a very solid game. And solid is the buzzword, really. It's just a very solid title from beginning to end. It doesn't really deviate from a certain standard. I didn't expect to enjoy this game as I did 5 or 6 years ago when I originally played it. I originally played it because a friend of mine just wouldn't shut up about it, and I saw it cheap one day and I thought, why not? Now, to begin with, I want to mention a few gripes that I have with the game, just so that I can say, well, firstly, this is a balanced review, and I just want to get those out of the way to begin with. Firstly, I think the obvious gripe is its graphics. I'm not really hung up on graphics all that much, but I've got to admit, it's not the most pretty game. In fact, it's pretty minging. If you didn't know anything about Diablo 2, then you might see the rather messy graphics and, not expect very much. A second gripe is that it's an absolute clickfest, something that I scored Sim Tower down on. But the problem with Sim Tower was there wasn't really much depth to it, whereas Diablo 2, while it is a clickfest, it has a lot more to it, not just what you're meant to be doing, but like the weapons, the type of creatures you'll be killing, and the missions you'll be going on, and stuff like that, the quests I should say. It's just got a lot more depth, so yeah, it is a clickfest, but actually at the beginning it's an advantage because you use your mouse for virtually every action and to move your character. It means that you can pick up the game very quickly, although playing for hours may well induce something like RSI. So it's a bit of a double-edged blade on that count. Now, with those two major gripes out of the way, let's look at the many strengths of this game. When you start the game, you get to choose between the characters of the warrior, the paladin, the amazon, the sorceress, and the necromancer. There's a nice selection, and their spells and abilities do make them play very differently. Personally, I think the best characters to play as are the barbarian and the necromancer, as the barbarian is just about the toughest character you can play as, and the necromancer can summon his skeleton and golem buddies to fight alongside him. Certainly when you go and play as any other character after playing as the necromancer, who will feature mostly in this video, the game feels quite lonely. Now, there is a story, but I couldn't really tell you what it was, partly because it's connected to the first game, and also because it wasn't really all that interesting. There are some nice Warcraft 3-esque cutscenes in between the 4 levels. They're well done, but the game could definitely use some more, especially after boss battles, or to signal the end of certain quests in a more dramatic way. In each level, and there are 4 levels, you get to sort of fight through 6 quests, and many of these you'll either stumble across, either like leaving your base and just randomly walking into a crypt and killing approaching creatures, or by talking to locals who tell you are recent unwelcome visitors. The levels include a moors/church style level, a desert level, a forest level, which is by far the weakest, and finally hell. I'm only going to show the first 2 here, so I don't sort of reveal too much. I do kind of want those who haven't played it to kind of be able to get some kind of surprise or whatever, or just not have seen the entire game just in 10 minutes. But the levels are huge, and thankfully have waypoints, which are pads to transport you instantly across sections, dotted around for your convenience. If you run into trouble far from camp, you can also portal back to your camp, where you can fetch supplies, repair weapons, buy potions of health and mana, and hire mercenaries to shadow you, although you're restricted in how many you can hire, and as I said, it makes playing the game as any other character quite lonely at times, unlike other RPGs where you have a lot of characters. This is a game that you can pick up within a minute, but will have you playing for hours as you work to level up your character, gain new skills and abilities. The leveling up bar is clear, as is the health and mana orbs, the red and blue orbs on the side of the screen that you can see, and given how much I value good presentation and clarity, this game certainly passes when it comes to showing the relevant info on the screen and not cluttering up with a whole load of crap. The tab map, which you'll see quite a lot of in this review as well, clearly shows entrances to areas, waypoints, shrines, and for health and other benefits, and really doesn't get in the way of you playing this game. Furthermore, when in enclosed areas, walls become semi-see-through, so you can focus on the action. Like many good things, many good features, you'd notice it if it wasn't there, but it's just one of the many small touches that prevents Diablo 2 from ever becoming frustrating. There's hundreds of different items with different attributes that you can imbue with magical qualities, but it's never overbearing, and for someone who doesn't like that Dungeons and Dragons complex style plus minus letter kind of whatever crap, Diablo 2 is nice and simple, and it isn't just for fantasy role-playing nerds. What probably separates Diablo 2 out from other games is just the sheer number of enemies that you fight against. It really does give it a bit of personality. What's also great is that while there are some kind of cut and paste jobs with characters and enemy creatures, as you progress through certain levels and areas, they'll colour them slightly differently, and they'll give them different names. It may sound a bit lazy, but in fact it keeps it just enough varied enough that it doesn't make you feel like you're fighting through hours of quite the same identical monsters. Also, certain levels will introduce unique creatures as well, which is a good thing. So again, it doesn't feel too samey. Furthermore, groups of units usually include a kind of general unit who is much tougher than the rest of them, and while they're quite tough, they drop useful magical items that you can use in your quest. The mood in Diablo 2 is fine. The music suits the game without being anything special, and the sound effects are really well done for individual creatures and for when individual certain items drop on the ground, you know that it's a magical item, or it's a key or a potion or something like that. It means that because there's a lot, as I said, the presentation isn't all that great with graphics and stuff. It means that you always know that there's been a useful item that's been dropped because of the sound effects, because they've been done well, and the creature noises never really get annoying, unlike other games. But if I had one gripe with the mood, it's just that it's not scary. So really, to conclude, it's difficult in 10 minutes to really sum up Diablo 2, especially to the layman who's never played this game before. But it's an action RPG game which is very intuitive in its controls, and you can be picking it up literally in about a minute. And the layout is really well done in the game. It provides absolutely hours of engrossing gameplay. If anything, if you want a quick game, this is probably not for you. But as I said, if you like good gameplay and you can look past the graphics, there's a lot here. I didn't think that many years ago when I started playing this game that I'd get so much into it as I did, but I gotta hand it to Blizzard for creating a very decent game. For Diablo 3 to be any better, all it would need is a boost in graphics, a boost in the storyline, and maybe the ability for characters to hire a multitude of mercenaries, and for the game to be as terrifying as something like Resident Evil 4, which is my example of a scary game. It really does the mood well. Diablo 2 didn't quite do that, but for now it's a very solid game, and it hasn't aged one bit, partly due to the graphics, and it just plays exactly as it ever did. So it has, unlike a lot of other games, I don't feel it's actually aged all that much. So in conclusion, I give this game an 8 out of 10. And that's me.